Local control, state control. You've heard that debate time and time again when it comes to law enforcement here in Kansas City and around the state for that matter. So happy to welcome on and say hi to the Secretary of State and gubernatorial candidate in Missouri, Jay Ashcroft, who wrote a piece, co-authored a piece last week titled, "We Need State Control to Make Our Community Safer." Now, we have that here in Kansas City, and by the way, some would say, hey, it ain't working too well here as we trend towards a record year for homicides in this town. But over in St. Louis, they got rid of their state control about 10 years ago. And it hasn't gone well there either. So let's welcome on the Secretary of State and figure out what that means here on a Monday morning. Good morning, Jay. Thanks for the time. What was the case you were making here in this piece, specifically as it relates to St. Louis, but obviously ties into what's going on here in Kansas City?
Well, good morning. Thanks for having me. Unfortunately, you mentioned that Kansas City has state control, and it's not, great there. Unfortunately, St. Louis has proven that it can always be worse. We've seen that law enforcement officials are not supported with the equipment they need. They don't have the vehicles they need. They don't have the support they need from the courts and from prosecutors. And what that means is that the law-abiding citizens are scared and criminals are not. That's a problem, and it can't be allowed to continue.
So you mentioned specifically the prosecutors, some of the issues they've got over there on that front. We have them here maybe to a lesser degree. Is there anything that the state can do on those items, or is that more so at the mercy of local voters?
There are things that the state can do. I actually had legislation that I worked on with Representative Lane Roberts, with the Prosecutors Association, with the Sheriff's Association, that did not make it through the House this prior year. We will continue to work on that because the people of the state, wherever they are, they need to know that the local government, the state government, will work to make them safe. Public safety is a core responsibility of government, and when it's not being done at the local level, the state has to come in.
Do you think, they got local control, perceived local control, about 10 years ago in St. Louis. So you think that there's buyer's remorse on that side of the state on that issue?
I think there is. I think that was pushed through by a very rich individual in Missouri that thought it would make things better, and it didn't. That went through it was voted upon, but the results have been stark and not in a good way. And we provide examples in that op-ed of just stupid things that local control is allowing to happen, putting impediments in the way of those individuals that put their life on the line so that we truly can be free and make our own decisions, and that's got to stop.
Now, you're right. It was pushed by a wealthy individual, and frankly, those wealthy individuals lean Republican or are Republican. So what does that say about the mess that it's created over there when it was Republicans who were pushing for that, and now it seems like Republicans also on this side of the state are saying, no, state control is the best option here for the area police departments?
Well, I think that it's very simply put. Generally speaking, Republicans like local control. We believe that generally local control is most responsive to the citizenry, to the taxpayers, and that it's the best way to do it. But when you have local officials that refuse to do their job, when they refuse to actually enact what's necessary to protect the people of the jurisdiction, that's when you say, yes, we do need state control. I think it's sad that when St. Louis City was given the opportunity to take back their police and have local control, that they have squandered that opportunity and made things worse. That's why people are now saying we need state control. Not because state control is always better, but in certain circumstances when local officials refuse to do their job, we have to step in.
Jay Ashcroft, Missouri Secretary of State, of course, he's running for governor as well, is joining us on KCMO Talk Radio, now on 95.7 FM. So what is, for those of us on this side of the state who do not keep tabs as well on the other side of the state, what does it come down to? Is it the mayor? Is it the entire system that has, pushed back on the police department? What has happened there over the last few years that has just made this an untenable situation?
There are allegations with more than just one individual. And I'm not doing this to call out individuals. I'm doing this to protect the people of the St. Louis city and to make sure that our law enforcement have the resources they need. But just look at what's happened with some of the reorganization. There's a great example in the op-ed where when the state had control of the system, there was a facility for repairing police cars and doing maintenance on police vehicles and a separate facility for maintaining other city vehicles. Now the city, in kind of a backhanded way to defund the police, sends all the vehicles to one location, which just means that police officers are waiting for work on their car because other vehicles are being worked on. We've had multiple times, where districts, those are locations within St. Louis City that are patrolled, don't have any law enforcement officials out on the street because there were no vehicles available. We've had instances where police officers need to get out of a car to, say, chase a suspect. They have to roll down the window and open their car door from the outside because the inside car handle has broken off and they can't open the car from the inside. Those are the sort of things that are ridiculous, and unfortunately, they're emblematic of what has happened to the police officers under local control of the city of St. Louis.
What can the state do, if anything? I mean, our two largest cities are seeing attrition in law enforcement. We're down 300 cops here in Kansas City. I think we're going to see more at the end of this year. I mean, you may be aware of the Eric DeValcanair situation and how that's played out here the last few weeks. His family is asking the governor for a pardon. We have not heard from the governor's office yet on that front, but we're expecting more people to leave the police force this year. So what, if anything, can a governor, can a state do about that?
I think the state can help with funding and prescribing how that funding is used. I think the state can help by prescribing appropriate rules of engagement. I think there are some people thinking about prescribing ways so that if there are claims against police officers and an investigation is done, that's done maybe in Cole County instead of in front of a jury that is biased against police officers. There are a lot of things that can be done, and it's timely quit just passing the buck and saying, oh, that's a local issue, and understand that when it's the people of Missouri that are hurting, that's a statewide issue.
I heard you say there that you are familiar with the DeValcanair situation. I don't know if you feel comfortable or not, based on your knowledge of the case, to say whether you would give him that pardon that he is requesting right now and his family is requesting right now from Governor Parson?
I haven't read all the court transcripts and the court records, so I apologize on that. I'm familiar with what had happened, but any decision like that would have to be made after actually reading through the evidence that was presented.
Understandably so. Jay Ashcroft is running for governor. That is going to start picking up steam, of course, going into next year. He is currently the Secretary of State in Missouri and making the case to have state control back in St. Louis and obviously keep it here in Kansas City. We appreciate the time, Mr. Secretary. Thanks for the time.
Thanks for having me.
You as well. That is, have a great day. That is Jay Ashcroft on KCMO Talk Radio. Good to have him on the show.